Hi, Room 5. So this week, we're all picking our favorite ocean animal to do some sort of report on. And anytime you study an animal, any book or video or text that you read usually has a ton of information. So what we need to do is we need to learn how to organize it. And this is something that you're going to learn for the rest of your life when you do reports. The first thing that we're going to talk about is characteristics. And that means what the animal looks like. What characteristics did Mother Nature give these animals to help them survive in their habitat, to help them find food, all the things that are necessary. So if I was going to tell you my characteristics, I would tell you that I'm probably about 5 feet 7 inches. I have blonde hair. It's actually strawberry blondish. I have blue eyes. I'm pretty pale. That means I'm not very tan. I have freckles. And those would be some of my characteristics. Okay. So today, my favorite is whales. Now, if you've ever looked up whales in a book, you'll find that you kind of run into a problem because there are so many different types of whales. So I'm going to read you just a little bit from the chapter of whales. Now, if we were in the classroom, I have bins and bins and bins of books on whales and posters and charts, but obviously we're at home and I don't. So today what we're going to do is learn about one sort of kind of whale. There are two. We're going to break it in half. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the characteristics of my favorite type of whale today. The ocean water parts as two blowholes split the surface, blasting a gigantic spray into the air. A humpback whale leaps out of the ocean belly up and then arches its back as it plunges headfirst under the waves. This impressive leap, called breaching, lasts only a few seconds before the graceful giant vanishes again into the deep. But humpbacks don't just come to the surface to do gymnastics. All whales are mammals that must surface regularly to breathe in air through their blowholes. They also give birth to live young and nurse their babies. Blue whales, the most gigantic creatures known to live on the planet, have the largest babies on Earth. These not so little ones weigh in at some 6,000 pounds and gain about 9 pounds every hour by drinking their mother's fatty milk. Over time, these baby blues will grow to be about as long as 2 school buses. A blue whale's underwater call is as loud as a jet engine, but the tone is too low for humans to hear. Of all whales, humpbacks have some of the longest and most varied songs, crooning for up to 15 minutes at a time. What these songs mean is one of the great mysteries of the sea. Only male humpbacks and blue whales are known to sing, but many species have calls ranging from barks to chirps to moans, screams, and pops. Some scientists think the songs attract females or just announce, "I'm here." So you can tell that was sort of hard to read about because it was talking about a humpback whale, but then it was talking about a blue whale. And it left out a bunch of other whales that we know of. How about the killer whale, known as the orca whale, or the beluga whale, the adorable little white whale? So there's so many different types of whales. We can divide them into 2 groups, and they are called baleen whales and toothed whales. My favorite whale happens to be a humpback whale. So because of that, we're going to study baleen whales first. I drew this little humpback whale right here. Now, there are so many species of whales in the ocean. I happen to have 3 posters here with me that we're going to look at. So this first one, these are all baleen whales, is the humpback. A humpback whale is the most playful of all the whales. It loves to sing and can make over 1,000 different sounds. Humpback whales have very long flippers and throat grooves. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a little while. Let's see the next one I have. Oh, the blue whale, the other one they spoke about. A blue whale is the largest of all living animals. It swims in very deep water and can eat 4 tons of krill each day. A baby blue whale can gain up to 200 pounds a day. And we just heard that 9 pounds an hour, right? And here's another one, the gray whale. And the gray whale, I'll have you know, is the one that is most seen off the coast of California, where we live. A gray whale travels over 10,000 miles each year. It swims from the cold Arctic seas, where it feeds, to the warm ocean waters, where it rests and has its babies. So all 3 of these types of whales right here have baleen. And what that means is when they open their mouths, they don't have teeth. They have bristles. Baleen looks like a broom going all the way across their mouth. And it's very handy for them. Since they're called the ocean giants, when they're moving through the water, they can't come to a quick stop to eat something. So instead, what they do is they have these throat grooves. Even a gray whale has it, but you can't see it on this picture. And that allows for their mouth to open really, really big. In fact, if you watched Finding Nemo, it's a humpback whale that swallows Nemo at one point. And, or I guess his dad, humpback whale that swallows his dad maybe. And he opens his mouth really, 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 really big, and all the water rushes in. That means all the fish rush in, all the shrimp rush in, all the plankton rush in, all the tiny little animals rush in. And then he closes his mouth. Well, when he closes his mouth, those bristles go together and only the water drains out. So because of that, these great big giants can eat enough food. Otherwise, it would be very tricky for them to eat a lot of food. So they just swim through and gulp down all the food that they have. The other things it talks about, they all have sort of different characteristics about them. So the gray whale is the smallest of these 3, but the gray whale is actually the one that if you go whale watching along the coast of California, you'll actually probably most likely see this gray whale. Last year when we were down south, we were with Teddy's soccer team and the kids were playing in the waves, and there were actually gray whales in the waves with them. A blue whale I've actually never seen in real life. I wish I have or could. But blue whales tend to dive very, very deep since they're so big. And they tend to not live in a big pack. They stick with just their babies. But these ones are the hardest to see because they're usually out in deeper waters. A humpback whale I absolutely have seen also. You can see them off the coast of California, and humpbacks have those beautiful singing voices. Okay, so I'm supposed to write about the characteristics. Well, what do I do in this situation? Because they all have different special facts about them. Well, if I want to write about the humpback, then I can only talk about the humpback whale. I don't want to confuse my readers by mixing information about different whales. So I'm going to take down these 2 giants, okay? And I'm going to write about things that I know about this humpback whale. Now, first of all, humpback whales and all whales are mammals. So that would be a really important note for me to write in my characteristics. Mammals mean they're just like us, which is crazy to think because, hello, they don't look just like us. But they are. They have lungs just like us. So they have to breathe air. They cannot breathe water. They need to breathe in oxygen. So that's why they have blowholes up at the top, okay? They're blowhole. And this is going to be my diagram. You could do a diagram also of your animal if you wanted, or you could do it of a whale with me right now if you wanted. Go get a piece of paper. And that blowhole, they breathe in and they breathe out by using that special blowhole. So they breathe air. Breathe air, okay? Now the other thing about humpback whales and all whales is that they have their babies alive and their babies drink milk just like humans. So they have live babies. So that means their babies don't hatch out of eggs. If they were a fish, their babies would hatch out of eggs. And they definitely do not. The other thing, which is kind of crazy, is they have hair. So their baleen can also be considered hair, but they also will have light hair on different parts of their body, just like all mammals have hair somewhere. So this whale, I'm going to put baleen right here with the arrow. Okay. And then these are the throat grooves that I was talking about. Baleen whales have throat grooves to help those mouths open really, really big. Okay. And so then have hair. Okay. So these are some things about being mammals. Now I wanted to label the rest of this. So I'm going to take this down. And anytime you're asked to do characteristics in a report, doing a diagram is a really great way to do that, because that way when you're talking about it or writing about it, you have a picture to reference. So the different parts that I would label are the blowhole and the baleen and the throat grooves. The other part that I'm going to label is first baleen whales and toothed whales as well have this little thing right here. Now it might not look like anything to you, but it's actually called the dorsal fin. And it's a part of their body. I believe it helps them sort of steer where they're going, but I'm not 100% sure. It's a lot bigger on our toothed whales, like the orca whale. Now this is the part of the whale that you probably would see the most if you went whale watching. It's the flukes. It's that gorgeous tail. And humans all have different fingerprints. That's how we can kind of tell us apart. Whales all have different fluke patterns. So scientists, that's one of the ways that they can study whales when they're out in the ocean without having to bring them into an aquarium or touch them in their natural habitat. They can see who they are by their flukes. It's pretty neat. And then here, of course, are flippers. Okay. So right there, I have a whole lot of information about what my humpback whale looks like. Oh, you know what? I noticed I didn't even write humpback whale on here. I'll write it right here. So I'm kind of turning this into a one-pager. Humpback whale. Okay. And you are more than welcome to do that too. I really like one-pagers because I like having notes all over this tells so much information, and I didn't have to write a ton of different sentences. So that's kind of why one-pagers are really nice. Now I also learned some other things though about humpback whales from reading in my book and just reading on this. They're playful. So I could write playful. I remember reading in this book that they were doing something called breach. Let me see if I can find that again. Yep, here it is, breach. And that's when they jump out of the water. Breach. They also sing. And they can make over 1,000 different sounds. Squeeze in my S right there. Okay, so those are some more things that I learned just about a humpback whale. Now in this book, a lot of times you will see different measurements about whales in books. This one doesn't have the humpback whale. One of the things that we would do when we were at school is we would each take a different whale on a card out to the playground, and we would actually measure it with chalk and a ruler to see just how long and how giant these beautiful giants of the sea are. So this is my characteristic page. Now I have asked you to put it into a paragraph. That is what we would do at school. But what we could do is we can take our one-pager, and it's so easy for me to make sentences out of these notes now. And I would probably start and do it exactly the same way I just drew it. So I might start by saying that my favorite animal is the humpback whale. It's a mammal that breathes air, has live babies, and has hair. Humpback whales have baleen instead of teeth and giant throat grooves. They have blowholes, flippers, flukes, and a dorsal fin. Humpback whales are very playful and like to jump out of the water, which is called breaching. Humpback whales also sing and have over 1,000 sounds. Humpback whales are known as the giants of the sea. And there's my paragraph. So obviously it's going to take a little bit longer for you to write it, but using a one-pager is a really great way to remember. Drawing pictures, using diagrams where you label the body parts. These are all great ways to teach. And the whole point of studying an animal and writing a nonfiction report is because your purpose is to teach somebody else who doesn't know. So if we were in the classroom, you would be getting up and teaching the rest of your classmates about these animals, because there's no way we have time to learn about 25 different animals. So it's great if you learn about one and can teach somebody else. So since we're not in the classroom, you get to teach the lovely people that you are sheltering in place with, and I'm sure they will love it. So tune back in tomorrow because we will be studying toothed whales. Very interesting. All right, you guys, I love you. There's no place like home. Bye.